Let's spend our last few minutes together talking a little bit about the role that brands can play as arbiters. So I was at a Kendrick Lamar show that Pepsi sponsored for the NFL, right?
Yep.
It was fascinating. It wasn't televised, but he was still self-editing. Like, instead of bitch don't kill my vibe, it was chick don't kill my vibe.
Yeah.
Why do some artists agree to some of those guidelines, and why do brands need
I think I can't speak for the artist, but I would just say common sense is that you have a platform. You want to sell in Walmart, you have to basically go by certain rules. That doesn't mean you go by every rule. You look at the top 10 grossing movies of all time, right? There's only one that's an R-rated thing. And I tell people this all the time. Scarface is a seminal cultural movie, right? The Lion King is a franchise, okay? And so, I don't know Kendrick Lamar from Jack Adam. I love his music. I would tell you this, that when you have that showcase, it may be a situation where it's authentic to you to say, bitch, don't kill my vibe. But you have to say to yourself, are you want to go with that authenticity to the impact of your commercial appeal? That's a trade-off only he can make. I will say, scientifically, if you look at the data, that will impact his commercial appeal. And if he's to a point where he doesn't care about that, God bless, because that's the point we all want to be in, right? I would say at the league, they definitely advise the guys that, hey, this is a commercial enterprise and there are some rules and there's also choices. I love the fact you turn down stuff. I mean, that's freedom. That's artistic expression.
Absolutely, because at the opposite end of the spectrum, we had at South by this year, another Pepsi brand, Doritos, sponsored Lady Gaga, who got vomited on as performance art. And that's something where a brand, by the way, encouraged that.
Also, it's the context of the performance too as well. So for example, obviously we did the On the Run tour, it was very successful. That is a R-rated show. Right? If we had done the On the Run television special and it wasn't on HBO, I could tell you we would have pushed for a cleaner thing. We did, one of the things I'm most proud of actually in my professional career is we brought to everyone the concert for Sandy Relief, 12-12-12. That was presented by Chase. And quite candidly, there are many artists there who have explicit versions of their materials, but it's a telethon. At a certain point in time, I tell people don't let your pride stand before your goal. At a certain point, don't say bitch. So at the end of the day, this can be on NBC so you raise money to get these people back in their homes. And if you can't deal with that, God bless you, but you can't be on the show.
So that's lyrical content. What about in the instances where an artist says something weird, has a criminal record, whatever? I mean, Camille, as a label, how do you advise a brand who maybe has an active deal with one of those artists? Like, how do you kind of?
Well, I'll just touch on quickly. You mentioned the
bail bondsman. Then it may be a good thing.
You mentioned the Lady Gaga Doritos thing. I know folks in the media kind of bashed Gaga and Doritos for doing it, but I thought it was brilliant. I mean, their whole platform was be bold, and you had to do a bold challenge in order to get into the show. So she was a representation of boldness in its most emphatic form. So they got pretty much what they wanted, and everyone to this day still talks about it.
That's
so
right.
Good for them. That's one of the biggest challenges, right? Is when you have an artist that kind of goes off the rails a bit, and they're right in the midst of a brand deal. I've experienced it a few times in my career. The conversation typically with a brand that's new to the music business is, it can be a little bit rocky. These kinds of things can happen. If a brand manager is not sure of their job and needs their job in order to feed their family, maybe don't take so many risks. And that's part of my job, is to sort of give people the spectrum and be, full disclosure about the things that could happen.
Yeah, I would say similarly that I had something really awful happen last year when I was at Slut Interscope with a huge cosmetics company and one of our artists. And it's the same thing. It's sort of like, I think, going back to your very first question about what can be done better, I think that brands need to understand that when they're embarking upon a deal with creative in any way, maybe it's a visual artist, any sort of creative, even if it's an app developer, these people are super creative, an athlete, whomever, there's risk involved, and I think that brands need to understand that going in, do a better job of understanding that there's going to be some risk. Hopefully we'll all hold hands going in and we'll meet and everyone will be friends and it'll be kumbaya. Yeah, we won't abandon you. But it's going to be a little bit bumpy, and I think maybe just going in with that mindset might even help from the outset.
And also, I think on our end, on the agency side, being prepared to react quickly and always having a plan, so your clients always feel like there is some kind of backup should something go wrong, is really critical in helping them take that step into the unknown.
Don't you go to Lady Gaga to get her to vomit on herself. I mean, seriously, but I mean, isn't that's what you want, because you want that kind of edgy, controversial type of thing that's people are gonna talk about that the next day.
And they know that. I've done a ton of work with Gaga, and everyone that I've done deals with, they know in advance.
Well, the powerful thing about what you're saying, I mean, going back to just the language, we're talking about brands as if brands are only on one side of the table. Metallica is a brand. Right? Lady Gaga is a brand. So in the same way we manage Chase and all the associated brands, you're managing Metallica. There's no sort of cookie cutter deal. You know, what we did with Jay and Beyonce, we wouldn't do with Fall Out Boy. I mean, and that's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just, again, the brands are different. And so when you come at it from an organic perspective, generally you can overcome a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. When thinking about talent, we like to look at the shared values of the two brands, because that's exactly right, they really are. And then our job is to find the creative articulation of those values that they share.
It's like State Farm, like sometimes the way they work is sort of patron of the arts.
Yeah.
And actually helping to contribute to an artist, whether it's to amplify their touring or, you know, their stage, what's going on stage, or video content. So, you know, there's so many different ways that a brand can participate in how an artist comes to life.
All right, so we're about to wrap up, but real quick, Lars, in December, Metallica was the first band ever to play in Antarctica. And you had a little help from Coke Zero, which helped bring some of the fans down there.
Sure.
So what's the next frontier? Like, what's the best
there
record you guys
aren't any left.
Is that it?
Well, at least not on this planet.
Yeah.
So obviously we have to look to space.
Red Bull did space. Not a performance, though. Not a performance.
Yeah.
Red Bull, I mean, they did a drop, but they didn't do a performance, so you could go up in a spaceship.
Listen, like I said,
Zero gravity.
Gaga's doing
Oh,
that.
Gaga's doing that.
We're reachable in the yellow pages.
Right.
Right under.
You need to be under the sea.
Under the sea.
Yeah.
Under the sea.
That case in point, I mean, it's been on our wish list for years. I mean, obviously one thing that Metallica loves to do, and people that know about Metallica know that we love to go to unexplored places. There are still frontiers, you know, that maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago couldn't support. There was no infrastructure to support the type of thing that we do. So, you know, as we're talking about, as the world is shrinking, and you know, more and more opportunities sort of present itself in different places, and all of a sudden somebody said Antarctica, and we'd actually talked about a few years ago about like what would it actually take to get down there and play. And again, you also have to look at, and sort of you said Coke Zero, and you said, you may feel okay about getting in bed. For instance, I mean, obviously a lot of movie stars, for instance, they are okay with getting in bed with particular brands in certain countries, but not in other countries. So, for instance, in Malaysia, I can tell you that a very, very well-known Hollywood A-list movie star was all over the airport and billboards promoting a particular thing in Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur that I guarantee you he would never do, for instance, in the United States. So, you know, we did this thing with Coke Zero to facilitate that particular ordeal in the Antarctic, and it was primarily a campaign for Latin America. That doesn't mean that we would get in bed with Coke Zero in the United States or in Western Europe. So you have to look at each particular scenario as you know, again, like I keep saying, just as a one-off.
That's fair.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us. And yeah, I guess next year we'll check in on when you guys are going to play Undersea.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks again.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.